Do you want to find out why Jeff Kaplan stopped working for Blizzard? Then make sure to watch to the end.
What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch.
What's up?
A YouTuber friend of mine, HiMrSwag, released a video where he outlines quotes from an anonymous source that he has from Blizzard Entertainment.
Okay.
A developer that knows the inner workings of what was going wrong on
So we have a source from a source from a source, something like that? That sounds good.
Team 4, the dev team that was working on Overwatch 2 and the now canceled PvE.
Okay.
I reached out to HiMrSwag as a precaution to say, hey, bro, is this legit? Yes, it sure is. He has my confidence and trust. We'll break down the details of the leak, and as well, I think this illuminates a lot of the growing story arc of Jeff Kaplan leaving and the inner turmoil with the company.
Okay, so he just said, trust me, bro, and we're going to trust this guy that his bro is trustworthy, I guess. Let's go with it. I'm sure it'll be interesting at least.
Anonymous source says the cancellation was 1,000% an upper management executive issue. It was all about profit margins.
Usually
they
is.
were looking at a game like Diablo Immortal, which was making $2 million a day, and that changed the expectations for the suits.
Yeah.
The PvE was looked at as increasingly irrelevant and not going to earn money in the long term. Keep in mind that just the live service multiplayer game that they already had all of a sudden turned on a new revenue stream just by adding a battle pass and cosmetics.
Yeah, this is the unfortunate thing with a publicly traded company, right? So Blizzard Entertainment or Activision Blizzard at the top is publicly traded, right? So, you know, they have a board of directors and they want the CEO of the company to be making the best financial decisions for them and for the stockholders as possible. And so they want the most money-making games and aspects of games as possible. And so they're talking like, okay, Diablo Immortal, it's making tons, like millions of dollars, right? And the Battle Pass added to Overwatch, that's making tons of money. And then, okay, we're giving them PvE. What's PvE adding monetarily? Nothing. Oh, okay. Well, then let's throw it out. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense from a business standpoint, but it's just a huge letdown.
So you can see why higher executives would look at that and say, why do we want to invest in making this big, complicated, expensive game when we can make money in easier ways?
Right.
So these claims stand to reason to me, but it gets worse. During the pandemic, there was slowed production, and as progress got worse and they struggled to meet deadlines, there began a vicious cycle that was doomed to fail. The league talks about talent leaving or getting reorganized to other projects, but
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of that happening during the pandemic, right? There was a lot of turnover within a lot of companies. You know, work from home became like a really ideal thing, and then when companies started taking away work from home, I think people left a lot of those companies, like trying to find more work from home opportunities elsewhere. So yeah, I mean, I could see how the turmoil and everything with turnover and just changes and the pandemic like threw a lot of things off, and especially if you're looking at things from a monetary standpoint, plus all the turmoil, you just go like, well, okay, this aspect just doesn't make sense anymore. From a business standpoint, it does make sense, but as a gamer, it still hurts. I am so sad because I was excited for that PvE stuff.
But also keep in mind that there was the lawsuit, which maybe some employees left due to protest. But as the production got worse, they actually pulled resources from the team, which was a doomed to fail strategy. And a little bit at odds because the team is always publicly talking about how they've expanded the team, doubled the size of the team. But no offense, when they bring on some of the new developers, they are often quite young. And no offense to young people, but a lot of the best devs and the seasoned veterans, the ones that usually have enough experience or knowledge, well, those are beginning to get thin, as many of them have left to other companies. So the anonymous source speaks quite contrary to a lot of the public messaging that we're getting from Blizzard. If you pay close attention, multiple Blizzard devs in the chats, live streams, BlizzCon line, the blog posts say how they've doubled the size of the team, increased way bigger than they've ever been before. But at the same time, they're admitting publicly as well that the workload they had was too much.
Okay, so the team size is doubling. We're doing great, guys. We're bringing on all this awesome talent, and we're not able to do anything because the awesome talent is actually quite young and inexperienced, and they're not familiar with our software and how things work around here, and they're learning. There's this huge learning curve with being here, and the senior talent, there's less and less of it, so There's less people to train the new people, and so the new people are learning much more slowly, and they're working on very small projects, and there's not much progress being made. And then we end up here.
Really sucks that the developers have to be themselves the marketing mouthpiece for the game as well. So they sort of have to tell the lies that Bobby Kotick would want them to tell. Keep in mind, this is the same guy that would reportedly write verbatim the responses that his figureheads would say in response to the lawsuits. So you really have to be careful absorbing any of the PR speak from anyone at Blizzard as if it's them speaking themselves. No. They're speaking for Bobby. So they talk about the team size expanding. But does that mean part-time work? Does that mean the commissioned artists that they have to churn out the skins content for the game that you have?
What if when they talk about the size of the team doubling, they're only talking about bringing on a bunch of interns? They're like, guys, we have way too much busy work. Let's just hire like 300 interns for the Overwatch team. And then we can also use that as a PR thing and say, hey, we doubled the team size. We're working on this so hard. Wouldn't that be great? We could just cover things up and make people think we're doing awesome work. Oh, man. Oh, that's crazy.
Have to imagine they pay less than a full-time employee. You're not really going to pin them down on any logically congruent storyline.
Yeah.
Because somehow they both want us to believe that the team is massive, big, and capable, but also they have to apologize for canceling the massive, big project that they had.
Right.
And instead, transferring all their energy to something that is lower on production cost and a higher return on investment.
Hey, guys, we're just going to transition the whole Overwatch team to Battle Pass. We're going to have about 1, maybe 2 developers working on new maps and, like, tweaks and updates, and then the rest of it is just all going to the Battle Pass, okay? Everybody's happy with that, right? All right, cool.
As opposed to making a wonderful game that will build the franchise's IP strength overall. No, Bobby doesn't like that. He likes profit margins.
Yeah.
Small investment, big payoff. Instead of a bigger investment and also a big payoff. No. The amount of profit is all that matters.
Yeah, to be honest, if they made a really, really good campaign, like really good story mode, really good talent trees like they were planning and everything, I think there would be a lot of buys into Overwatch and into the Battle Pass and everything. So I think it would have paid off way more than they're thinking. I don't know. That's just from my perspective of not being a business savvy, small-time YouTuber. I have no idea for sure, but that's what makes sense to me is like, okay, if you make something good, people will buy it. It's the same with content creation. If you make good content, people will watch it. Same exact thing. I don't know. It just seems silly to cut it all out.
Contradiction from the anonymous leak, they said a lot of the developers left when the work from home policy was enacted, meaning that employees had to actually live near the Blizzard campus where it's very expensive.
Yeah.
This is directly in contrary to Jared Ness, who says the opposite publicly. But again, I feel like this is a case where Blizzard's PR speak tries to have it both ways.
Exactly.
Did people quit because of the work from home? If they did, that would ultimately have a significant effect on your productivity. No?
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think it is just PR cover-ups, right? I think that's probably what it is. And there's a lot happening behind the scenes that is just getting covered up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Oh, and if the team is big and capable, well, where's the product for it?
Yeah.
It really sucks to have these developers speak on the behalf of the company and feed us these lies that just don't add up.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we know who to blame. It should have been no surprise to anyone. The anonymous...
You can almost see the sweat on these guys' faces, like, because of the issues going on, right? It's like in poker when you give a tell, right? You're like, yeah, I totally have it. Yeah, I've got a full house, of course. Yeah, I win this game, no problem. Sweat pouring down the face. Yeah, no, these guys are like, look at this. This lady looks stressed. He doesn't look happy. Jeff Kaplan looks done. He's just over it. This guy looks confused. Like, what am I even doing here? This guy, he actually looks upset. He's like, I'm just not happy about anything right now. He probably knows that the game's going to get cut, and they're just trickling out information until, like, Jeff's 2-week notice is up and things change, and then they go full force into the Battle Pass. Oh, my gosh.
The source goes on to say something that I think we all know is that the devs really just did the best with what they were given.
Yeah.
And as they've said publicly, developing the talent trees for every single hero in the game was an insane proposition. I almost wonder if they would have been better off just like taking 8 heroes or so and making that game first just with them. Because
I don't know. like World of Warcraft, right? Like MMOs, they're huge amounts of work, and you can't do that for Overwatch? I don't know. That seems weird. I feel like a lot of it could be copy paste. I mean, obviously the actual things that are being affected would be very different for the copy paste, but like, is it really that hard? I'm not a game developer. I don't know for sure, but it doesn't seem as hard as they're making it sound, you know?
From Reddit responses from the devs, they've told us that it was easier to design a brand new hero for PvP than to do the skill trees, which had all these different options for PvE.
Wow.
Even though it doesn't have to be as balanced. Somewhere between 30 and 50 talents for each.
But is that one of those PR kind of messages? You know what I mean? Like, are they just saying that just to deflect and make it like, oh, it's okay that we're letting it go? Because it would have been way too much work. Like, regular Overwatch is enough, you know? I don't know. You never know with these kind of things.
Each hero in the game. That's an insane amount of content, especially when you think of like an action RPG. I'm thinking Diablo, Borderlands 3.
Right.
There's only a handful of characters in the game, and then they span off into a few skill trees.
Right.
But it's not so much more than the amount that they're saying there. If they did try to do that game, it would have been the biggest action RPG type game of all time. So it's really heartbreaking to see them not be given the resources to make.
Yeah, especially when you spin it like that. The biggest action RPG game of all time. Like, people already love Overwatch. Maybe they don't love how the company is handling it in some regards, right? Like, obviously the Battle Pass, ew. Like, that's disgusting. Why monetize so heavily? You know, obviously, like, Overwatch League kind of mismanaged or whatever. Like, not really super successful like it could have been. But biggest action RPG game of all time. You just say that to yourself and you're like, wow, that's a huge opportunity. We should take that, I would think, especially a company that size that has the resources to do something like that. Big opportunity loss.
Make that game of the decade that it could have been.
Right.
But it makes sense when you think to the way that Activision Blizzard King runs all of their IP. Candy Crush, Call of Duty, they want Overwatch to be like that, and it needs to be a different game if they wanted to make a real game instead of a cash flip with low investment requirement and high return on investment, aka milking out IPs and giving the least amount of product for the most amount of money.
Right.
It's a really unfortunate business strategy, because if you look at a game like World of Warcraft, which is just outrageously massive, Overwatch 2 could have been the next thing. It could have reached
That's what I was saying.
The MMO aspirations that Aaron Keller talked about in the dev blog in my previous video.
That's what I'm saying. Seriously. Oh my gosh. It could have been huge. Opportunity lost. Opportunity lost. That's what I keep saying.
Could have reached that size of game, but at the moment the best thing we're going to get is like a full campaign in like years of time, which I suppose is better than nothing, but it's nowhere near the artistic vision of what these devs wanted to do.
Right.
And that's where I want to transition to talk about Jeff Kaplan, where it's blatantly obvious now that he was not signing up for any more of this ATVI BS. And while you guys know I had a lot of philosophical differences with Jeff over the years, I'll be straight up, the guy just did not like me at all. I was a thorn in his side for years.
Ouch.
But I always respected the man's integrity and artistic vision and very unique route to arriving to a competitive multiplayer game that was unlike any other.
Is it that much of a stretch to just believe that Jeff left because they botched the PvE that they hyped up so badly? Is that crazy to just stretch to that immediately? Because I'm pretty sure that's where this is going. I don't know. I'm not for sure, but that's what I'm guessing.
Because Jeff worked on the WoW team for so many years, and as Aaron Keller said in his blog post, the team were WoW devs, they thought of things in more of the magical player immersion point of view, whereas other competitive titles, let's say Valorant, are all about the competition every step of the way, which does have its benefits, I will admit, but you can see the weaknesses clear as day. The characters are less defined, they often aren't as imaginative or intuitive.
Right.
So over the years, I had to grow a level level of respect for the alternate route that guys like Jeff Kaplan or the now former lead hero designer Jeff Goodman would take to design. They looked to maximize the fun first and worry about the competitive viability later. It gave us the GOATS meta we were trapped in, but it also gave us 2016's Game of the Year. So I tend to take the good with the bad. Now let's look back to quotes from the 2019 announcement of Overwatch 2. Keep in mind that many of us believe that this was pushed out the door because Bobby Kotick wanted to change the news cycle surrounding BlizzCon with growing controversy over the Blitzchung incident.
Oh man, I'm not familiar with all that, but I believe that it was just a big push from Bobby for more money. That's what I believe.
So they had to come out with the big announcement then, even though it's pretty clear in hindsight, they weren't really ready to do so. On stage, Jeff explained the endlessly replayable missions that they called hero missions.
Right.
And he said it's what adventure mode is to Diablo. It was aimed to have a progression system with custom abilities and talents. Then
it was going to be huge, and that's why everybody was so hype about it. It was going to be huge. You could only just look at it on a surface level and realize how huge it would be if it actually came to fruition. Like, it would have been the biggest action RPG game ever. It would have been insane.
He went on to explain that they wanted to redefine the sequel. And this is where I always thought it was very tone deaf to speak this way. Because while Jeff was trapped at Activision Blizzard, where they're used to sequel churn like Call of Duty coming out every year, losing all of the progress, cosmetics, and everything to play a different game year on year, the rest of the industry had already changed to free to play. In 2019, Fortnite was the biggest game in the world, and at the start of that year, Apex Legends launched. So we had two games destroying Overwatch at the same time, which were free to play, and had all of the benefits Jeff was talking about for the sequel already free in the game. So Jeff wanted
that's hard to compete with.
To bring all of the old players along with. So you
I understand how it all worked out too, right? Like, two big competitors that are free to play. How are they making money? We don't understand. We're Blizzard. We have to monetize everything. I get the timing. I get how it came to be this way. It's still disappointing, especially with how it all turned out in the end, with the PvE actually being canceled, and it could have been a good moneymaker. Oh man, so sad.
You could keep all your cosmetics, and you'd still be able to play with the new players in Overwatch 2. We never really got the full explanation of what that meant because it didn't make any sense. But over the years, we were able to stitch it together, and what it was going to be is that the PvP would just get updated, and the PvP would just get updated, and the PvE would be an entirely separate Diablo game, essentially, with its own campaign and endgame. And you would pay for that new experience.
That makes sense.
But you could also just stick to PvP if you wanted. It would be separate.
Yeah.
That was always a competitive disadvantage, though, because at Activision Blizzard, they were a bit in a bubble with the box product model being so profitable for them. The writing was on.
You know, I really just think that the upper management, the board members of Activision Blizzard, they really need to just talk to somebody outside of the company and get like a fresh perspective. Like pull in. You could literally do a polling like of the community, right? Just ask people, what do you guys want? And we would tell you, hey, we would pay money for this. Like, it would be so easy. I don't know what they're doing over there. They're too stuck in the, I would think, like the more classical business mindset.
On the wall even at that point. If the rest of the industry was on the box product model, then yeah, that would have been revolutionary. But with so many free-to-play games already robbing attention from Overwatch, that was going to be doomed to fail. And think about this from Jeff Kaplan's point of view. He gets to be the scapegoat that goes on stage to overpromise this massive game that they're trying to make. That Aaron Keller cleared up on how audacious the vision of this was. That not only did Jeff want that, each hero having 30 to 50 talents in a PvE endlessly replayable Diablo game. Behind the scenes, they wanted another higher, bigger game.
Right.
An MMO game over that after they made Overwatch 2. That's what Overwatch 3 was going to be. So at some point in the company, based on the leaks that we know from Sir Swag, they're looking at the numbers of all of this and how Jeff wants to scale this up. And I'm assuming a suit said no. In fact, I'll give you less resources.
Yeah, and that would be super disappointing. You have this grand vision and dream. for the series, for the story of these characters and the world building. And they were doing really good, I think. Like introducing heroes and characters and kind of the world with the original Overwatch. It was going pretty well. You were starting to see like a really cool fleshed out world. And going in that MMO direction actually makes a lot of sense. You flesh out that world and then you have a whole world to work with, and you could make an MMO about it. It'd be perfect. It'd be their next World of Warcraft, essentially, and it would still be under Activision Blizzard, so they're still the controller of all the big MMOs, right? I mean, it's genius in a way if you think about it. Yeah, whatever bigwig said no to that is kind of an idiot.
Good luck doing whatever you want. It always felt odd to me because Jeff Kaplan was vice president of Blizzard Entertainment, but I think as the coverage of the lawsuit and everything has gone on, we all know that there's really just one king at Activision Blizzard. It's Bobby. Every other position of leadership just seems to be a token. And hey, I mean, vice president was already probably a token position, but it felt...
Yeah, there's Bobby the king, and then there's his workers, and that's about it. Whether you're in upper, middle, lower management, or a grunt worker on the ground floor, it's Bobby and his worker bees. That's it.
Strange that he couldn't have more pull to get what he wanted, but adding everything up now in hindsight, I think Jeff was looking down the barrel of the change of strategy that was being pushed onto him from top down, seeing everything that he wanted to build be reduced to rubble, and Jeff has to sit there and think, does he want to have to come out again and give this massive apology that he shouldn't have to make? I don't think Jeff would have wanted to lie to us and say that PvE is coming and then months later down the line explain that it's in this diminished capacity.
By the way, I just want to point out that this guy is totally talking in the frame of voice of like conjecture. So he's not even talking about the friend of the friend who he totally trusts anymore. He's just talking from his point of view, which is interesting. I don't know where we went with the supposed facts and leaks. But this is all purely conjecture at this point. I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree. Why would I do the same, in Jeff's situation? I could totally see Jeff leaving for that reason. Like, I don't want to be the guy that gets blamed for all this crap. I'm out. I can see it too, but I just wanted to point that out. We're no longer in leak territory, and it's all conjecture.
After he had just years ago on stage promised the world.
Yeah.
I can see why he'd want to leave for that. Let someone else have to tell those lies.
Right.
He was not going to walk the plank. Because while I have been on board for the free-to-play change, expensive cosmetics, I don't mind paying a battle pass because I like the content I get in it. I enjoy it more than loot boxes. I like the seasonal model. I like the update cycle we have. I even will probably like the campaign. So it's not even really necessarily any of these decisions that I hate.
Right.
I never needed a Diablo game for Overwatch because Diablo 4 was coming anyway. I
like
Diablo 4. I'll play Diablo 4 for Diablo. The thing that I can't stand is the bait and switch, is the lying, is the thought that maybe I bought more skins thinking they were still making that big game that they did.
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree, actually. It's not necessarily that we don't get the game. It's that we were promised the game and we don't get the game. Because, if we never knew about the game, we wouldn't care, right? We wouldn't care. We have Overwatch. We already have the thing. Being promised more is just extra at that point. But man, yeah, getting promised something really, really cool and then just, oh, by the way, nope, you don't get that. And any hype you had around it, any, like you said, like skins you bought because you were excited because of it. Yeah, none of that matters anymore.
Did not tell us they have canceled when they knew they canceled it before they even launched Overwatch 2. They flew creators out like myself to show us all the amazing things they were doing for PvP. And when we kept nagging them, especially me, by the way, the most annoying of any of the creators, asking the hardest questions behind the scenes always, with only a few other of my peers that even come close to how much I hold Blizzard's feet to the fire, we kept nagging about PvE, and we never got a response. I don't think I've ever used a cuss word on this channel. Fuck you, Blizzard. Fuck you. Fuck you for lying to my face and to all of our other creators, getting us on board with a strategy that you were not disclosing fully the changes and downgrades you were making.
Hey, I mean, I'm right there with you in feeling like, how dare you guys, bait and switch us that hard. It's pretty upsetting, pretty disappointing. I really wish you had just never said that PvE was coming and then just surprised us with it if you actually had it. That probably would have been that would have been way better. or just never have it because you never got to that point where you could make it and we never knew about it. Either one of those would have been better than telling us it was coming, hyping it up so big, and then, oh yeah, by the way, we can't do it. It's just not possible.
Never trusting another thing you say ever again, because I will have to admit, I was lured by the personality and goodwill from the people who are working on the front lines,
right,
but fooled into believing that they speak genuinely. They often do, but they also speak PR speak for Bobby Kotick like everyone else does at that company.
Right.
And you can't expect anything more from that. I am beyond irate about how we, as the entire community, have been treated by Bobby Kotick.
Yeah.
It's been his fault the entire way through, and the leaks just keep compounding. If you remember leaks from a while ago from an associate producer that went to Riot Games saying that Bobby Kotick would come down after telling the dev team to work on one big direction and switch gears entirely, ruining progress. Now, on top of it, we have leaks saying that they would cut resources and make the project doomed to fail by having ridiculous expectations funded by starvation resource tactics.
Crazy.
I'll end this rant today by reminding you Jeff Kaplan's final response before leaving the company, written almost as if it was on a napkin in lowercase. Jeff's final personal note, he says, "I'm leaving Blizzard Entertainment after 19 amazing years.
Yep.
It was truly the honor of a lifetime to have the opportunity to create worlds and heroes for such a passionate audience. I want to express my deep appreciation to everyone at Blizzard who supported our games, our game teams, and our players. But I want to say a special thanks to the wonderful game developers that shared in the journey of creation with me. Never accept the world as it appears to be. Always dare to see it for what it could be. I hope you do the same. GG, Jeffrey Kaplan."
Oh man, that's a good message, man. You could tell that he loved what he did there and maybe a little bitter about how it had to end. Ah, that sucks. And oh man, to be the guy that's the face of all that, right? Like, Bobby ain't coming down and saying, hey, I'm promising all this to you, and by the way, gonna take it all back, you know? I totally understand why Jeff left. I totally get it. Oh, that sucks. That really sucks. PvE could have been so good. I just wish they hadn't told us. I honestly do. Just, why did you tell us? You could have just not told us, and then it wouldn't have been a problem. Oh, man, Blizzard's got a long way to go before they fix their, like, community interaction type stuff and like PR BS. Like, they got a long way to go, man. Well, what do you guys think? Was the Jeff Kaplan info spicy enough for you? Let me know in the comments. Leave a like, a subscribe, and I'll see you next time.